Have you ever looked at a man who seems perfectly fine on the outside, still married, still playing the role of a husband, but deep down, something about him feels disconnected? You can't quite point it out, but you can sense it. His smiles look practiced, his laughter feels a little too forced, and though he claims everything is fine, you can feel the silence between him and his wife louder than any argument they could ever have. What if I told you that when a man is secretly planning to walk away from his marriage, he doesn't always say it out loud, but his actions quietly start revealing the truth? Because before a man leaves physically, he leaves emotionally first. At first, it's almost invisible. He tells himself he's just tired, work's been stressful, maybe he just needs space. But the truth is, his heart has already begun drifting away. One of the first things you'll notice is that he starts avoiding arguments. Not because he's suddenly become calm or mature, but because he no longer cares enough to fight. Arguments in healthy relationships are a sign of passion, a desire to fix what's broken. But when a man has checked out, he no longer has that energy. He stays quiet, agrees to everything, or just walks away mid-conversation. On the surface, it may seem peaceful, but silence in a marriage isn't peace, it's emotional distance. Then something even deeper begins to fade, the physical connection. The touches that once came naturally now feel awkward. The hugs become brief. The kisses start to disappear. He avoids intimacy, not because of exhaustion or stress, but because emotional withdrawal always finds its reflection in physical distance. When he stops reaching out for closeness, it's his soul whispering what his lips can't say anymore. I'm not in this anymore. He starts spending less time at home. Even when he's physically present, he's mentally somewhere else. The couple who once spent weekends together now barely share an hour. The man who once looked forward to movie nights or shared dinners now finds excuses to stay late at work, hang out with friends, or just sit alone in another room. It's not always about cheating or resentment. Sometimes it's simply that he no longer finds joy where he used to. He's escaping, quietly, bit by bit. Notice how he stops talking about the future. Plans, vacations, goals, even small things like repainting the house. Suddenly, he's vague. The we turns into I. There's no more talk of next year or 5 years ahead or what life will look like together when the kids grow up. As if he's mentally rewriting his life story, and this time, you're not part of it. That's not a random phase. That's emotional preparation for separation. And when conversations do happen, they become painfully shallow. The depth that once existed, the late night talks, the laughter, the shared dreams, are replaced by small talk. He'll talk about bills, work, the weather, but never about feelings. When a man's heart begins to drift, his words lose their warmth. You can sense the hollowness in every reply. The woman may try to bring up something meaningful, only to find him distracted, uninterested, or changing the topic. He's there, but not really. Then there's the little things he suddenly starts latching onto. A misplaced key, a forgotten text, or minor disagreement. He reacts with irritation or frustration. It's not that these things truly bother him, it's that he's using them as emotional exits. When love fades, the mind looks for excuses to justify the growing distance. So he starts exaggerating the negatives, convincing himself that maybe he's the victim, maybe he's trapped, maybe leaving is the right choice. It's self-protection disguised as frustration. You'll notice another painful shift. He stops listening. The man who once cared about what his wife thought now seems uninterested in her opinions or stories. When she talks, he nods absent-mindedly, his eyes elsewhere, his phone in his hand. It's not always intentional. Sometimes the detachment has become so deep that listening feels like an effort. The emotional bond that once made her voice matter has faded, leaving behind a kind of numbness that feels colder than anger. And yes, that phone. Suddenly, it's always there, always in his hand, always with the screen facing down. He's scrolling, texting, working, but he's also hiding. When a man begins detaching emotionally, he often seeks escape through digital worlds, social media, chatting, distractions. The phone becomes his companion, his shield against real connection. He may not be cheating yet, but he's already building a life that doesn't include his partner. He starts spending more and more time alone. What used to be our space becomes his space. Maybe he's in the garage, the gym, or out on drives by himself. Solitude becomes his comfort. It's in that quiet where he can breathe freely because the presence of his partner now feels heavy. He tells himself he just needs alone time, but what he's really craving is freedom from emotional responsibility. And when he does interact, he becomes hypercritical. Every small thing she does seems wrong. The way she talks, cooks, dresses. Suddenly, nothing is good enough. But that criticism isn't really about her. It's a reflection of his own guilt. When a man knows deep down that he's pulling away, he subconsciously blames the other person to justify his actions. Finding faults helps him feel less like the bad guy. It's a psychological defense. I'm unhappy because of her, he tells himself, instead of facing the truth that his love has changed. And eventually, the most devastating sign emerges: cheating. Not always physically at first, sometimes emotionally. Maybe it's a coworker he confides in or a friend he suddenly talks to more often. The line between friendship and flirtation blurs. Emotional infidelity often starts long before physical betrayal. And when it does become physical, it's not just about desire, it's about validation. It's about feeling wanted, admired, alive again. The saddest part is, most men don't cheat because they hate their wives. They cheat because they've already stopped loving themselves inside that marriage. What makes all this even more tragic is how quiet it is. There's no big fight, no dramatic ending, just a slow fading, like colors draining out of a painting until it's nothing but gray. The wife might sense it, but keep hoping it's just a phase. She tries harder, becomes more patient, more forgiving. But the harder she tries, the further he drifts. Because once emotional detachment sets in, logic doesn't fix it. Presence doesn't fix it. Only genuine reconnection can. And by the time she realizes it, he might already be too far gone. But here's the truth many people miss. Men rarely wake up one day and decide to divorce. It's a gradual emotional unraveling that starts months, sometimes years before the actual separation. The silence, the distance, the criticism, they're all symptoms of a man silently saying, "I'm not happy here." The question is whether he communicates that pain or hides it behind withdrawal. Every marriage hits rough patches, but when love still exists, both partners fight to save it. When one stops fighting, it's not always about hate, it's often about hopelessness. He doesn't see a way to make things better, so instead of trying, he starts escaping. Not because he's evil or cold, but because he's human, and humans run from pain they don't know how to heal. So if you've seen these signs, not to panic, but to pause. These are not always endings. Sometimes they are alarms. Signs that something is deeply missing, something unsaid, something unhealed. Sometimes what looks like the beginning of a divorce can also be the last chance to rebuild. But that only happens when silence turns into conversation, when avoidance turns into vulnerability, and when both people decide to stop guessing and start listening again. Because at the end of the day, the real tragedy isn't when a man divorces his wife, it's when he emotionally divorces her long before the papers are ever signed.